Scarra here, and I'm here to talk to you about the new patch 5.22. Right now, the game length is short. It's really short. So the average game length for me before was between 32 to 38 minutes. Now I would say the average game length for me is 25 to 30. So they shortened the average game length by almost 5 minutes or more. Typically that means like the game snowball fast or harder. And it's really hard to claw your way back. Games are decided a lot earlier. There really isn't a late game. If Riot wants to create a more early game centric theme, that's not a terrible idea. The way that this happened is a bad idea. Like one of the reasons why the games are so short are just generally that the towers are taking too much damage. I think towers should not be falling as fast as they are right now. They kind of allocated more health toward towers but removed resist. It was to make it so that ADs couldn't take towers as fast, and APs and other like tanks could take towers faster. But what it ended up being is like a general buff to everyone and being able to take turrets fast. Now when I ace someone, holy shit, I ace someone like level 10 or level 8, and I'll get like 2 towers off of it. And before that was impossible. It's hard for me to really figure out how important objectives are right now. Like the Rift Herald and Dragon, it feels like the importance of both of these objectives, big objectives, which used to be huge in last patches, are really minimalized. A slightly slower paced game I feel like is more healthy for the game, because right now it just feels a little bit too much in terms of early centric, if that makes sense. Early mid centric. Moving on, let's talk about items. So the biggest aggressor of really strong items is Rageblade. Rageblade right now is way too cost efficient. Don't get me wrong, I think there should be items that reward hybrid champion play, like Kayle, Jax, and even if they're niche items that are good for just those champions, that's fine. The problem is when it becomes so cost efficient, you're picking up that item on champions that don't even value like half the stats. For instance, Aurelia will started picking up Rageblade because the item, once it hits max stacks or even halfway to max stacks, is so cost efficient that regardless or not if the AP exists, which it gives you like 80 AP or something insane on the item, Aurelia will build it because it's just the best item in the game for attack speed champions that can remotely scale well with Rageblade. I think the item just needs to be toned down. That's nothing else to say. Another combination I want to talk about is the combination of Shiv and Rapid Fire Cannon. Individually, the items are okay, but the fact that they share the exact same passive where both passives can proc on the same hit and they charge the same way, that creates really like super powerful burst timings essentially. Individually, the items may not be too good. Because together they come to form like this super like spiky power spike in the middle of your like damage autos. I think that's too much, and maybe they should even make it a unique passive that you can only choose one or the other. I think that's not that good because it limits you a lot from being able to buy crit options. Well, with the introduction of Phantom Dancer, maybe it can be limited, and that way people will start for crit going either Hurricane or PD plus Shiv or Rapid Fire, and that would create differing levels of itemization. Regardless of what happens, it feels like the combination is a little bit too powerful now, especially on champions like Vayne, who scale really well with attack speed. My personal opinion is just to make maybe a unique passive, or just to nerf it so that when you buy both, it doesn't work in the way like it does. The passives don't stack on top of each other, so you're guaranteed both in one auto. At least force 2 autos to get one and then the other. Those are the 2 items that really stood out to me as being extremely powerful. Let's move on a little bit onto champions. A lot of these champions can abuse Masteries really hard, like the new Masteries. A good example are, Yasuo, Tryndamere, man. They crit a lot, essentially. Yasuo's passive doubles his crit chance, so you can cap crit with Shiv crit cloak. And Tryndamere gets passive crit just based on his passive, based on his rage bar. I think both of these champions got a lot more powerful due to the mastery that allows you to crit more or heal off your crits. And yes, they're gonna hotfix the mastery later in the next week, from what I've heard. But it doesn't mean that currently in the last week, the only thing I've had to experience is against these champions, and I'm curious to see what happens once these masteries disappear. Like, for sure, both these champion strengths are going to decrease. But in the moment, these are the 2 biggest abusers of the crit mastery, so to speak. When I look at mid laners, they have when they have AoE wave clear abilities, it's really obvious. It's like, okay, well, the cooldown is going to be 6 to 10 seconds, and the base damage typically around 200 to 300 damage, and the ratio is going to be probably between 0.5 to 0.8. That's just standard across almost every AP champion. Because you AoE, the base damage is generally lower. If they have high base damage values, they necessarily don't have high scaling unless it's their only damage ability. Graves. What the heck happened with this champion? When I read his, just by reading his numbers, I can get a kind of general strength about a champion. And Graves' AoE is insane. It has, I think, 350 base at level 9, not including the initial hit on Q, which can do up to 120. And it also scales with your bonus AD ratio of, I think, 1.3, which isn't as good as total AD, of course. But still, having, I feel like pretty above 1.0 AD scaling, even if it's just bonus AD, seems kind of crazy on the champion that, I don't know, on any champion. I think that I really like what they did with Graves. Thematically, the champion is a lot of fun to play, and the rework I feel like was a great success. However, one of the big things that I feel like is just super crazy about the champion is the damage on this Q is just incredibly high. I think he scales really, really well with items, outside the fact that he lacks range, but he fits this bruiser-ish role that gets a lot of armor and MR off his true grit. I think he'd be a lot easier to play against if you just toned down his Q. Another champion that seems to have really somehow eluded everyone's vision is Soraka. I hate Soraka. Her biggest counterplay is ganking and all-in lanes that are decently good. And this patch they just randomly ended up buffing her. Because Grievous Wounds now, you can get the item off of Last Whisper. Riot's thing was okay, we'll nerf Grievous Wounds, which by the way I agree with. Really good idea, because having the debuff in the game at not only at Morello's, but also an easily bought item that ADs can itemize into anyways, makes it so that there's too many Grievous Wounds in the game potentially, and that they need to nerf the overall healing. So nerfing it from 50% less to 40% less, I thought was really smart. But then what they did was, it doesn't affect healing on other champions. And all of a sudden I just read it, I'm just like, cool. Because this means that, typically it doesn't mean really much of anything for anyone except for Soraka. So Soraka plus the new Wind Speaker thing, which allows her to heal more, makes us she just heals an insane amount, and you can't stop her, because originally the counterplay to her was, okay, let's ignite, and even that counterplay wasn't that good because her ulti removes Grievous Wounds. Now it feels like there's no reason to ever really ulti. There's it doesn't matter, because your heals go through Grievous Wounds anyways, because it doesn't count. I would prefer them to just nerf the amount of healing done to 35%, and just allow Grievous Wounds to affect all healing again. I don't really know why it's at a point where it doesn't affect it. And I could have told you, reading the patch notes, that Soraka was going to be a problem. And she is. I ban her every game, but the games that are up are just if you're not snowballing against her, it's pretty tragic. She essentially stuffs a lot of assassin play through her silence, and bursty play, and pokey play. And I think that's... I don't know. It's really hard to come back against the Soraka, and I feel like it's really frustrating to play against this type of champion, especially if you're even or behind. Which is, okay, but I just feel like her general power level is too high off the new patch. I don't know what Riot's agenda is for buffing AD ultis to be so powerful. A good example is Lucian and MF. Before, just look at the base damage values of both of these ultis, and then look at the base damage values of ultis on AP mid laners. If you look at them specifically, you'll be like, okay, maybe Lucians and MFs are harder to hit, but that shouldn't warrant both of those damage abilities to be doing over 1,000 damage at level 11. It's crazy that MF and Lucian ultis went from they do decent damage, and at level 6 maybe they only hit hard if you hit every portion of it, to now, okay, Lucian and MF ult can one-shot you. Solo later scale well with levels. Base damage wise, they're really good, and they have strong CC or roaming tools or all this stuff. And alternatively, AD carry scale really, really well with items. However, it seems like with this new patch, AD skill also scale well with levels. Moving on, Kog'Maw is complete garbage. No, he just needs buffs across the board. I'm not even going to talk about him. Let's move to Masteries. Jesus Christ. Okay, let me start off with, I like the new Masteries because they all seem kind of relevant. Point for point, they feel less or more useful or less useless than the old Masteries did. I like it, you know? And the new Keystone Masteries do create like kind of interesting ways to play the game. But I think a lot of that is just like, oh, you know, it's kind of a new thing. Whereas they're just going to have very standard builds going on to the split. That's fine. Not a big deal. What I don't like is, dear God, why did this Crit Mastery make it out of PBE? The Crit Mastery is so broken that I can't even correctly evaluate champions or items because of it. Not only did this champion break essentially AD itemization, it also broke specific champions like Yasuo and Tryndamere to being like super top tier. This is the Mastery that's looking to get hotfixed in the next patch. And for a good reason. I think that their hotfix idea is really good. Personally, I only had the idea to, like, you know, increase the cooldown by at least 5 times, if not 10 times, if not 15 times. This is how bad I think that this Mastery is right now. AD carries and top laners are skipping Vamp Scepter to buy crit to sustain in lane. Just think of how like crazy that is. I can't, and because of that, I can't properly evaluate how good, you know, for instance, Vamp items are, because you can get so much sustain off just building crit. When build paths are like, oh, we should rush BF into Zeal into IE or something because the Zeal gives you like, you know, enough crit to be super. To sustain yourself through lane, I think that's just wrong. It's getting nerfed soon, and so there's not much else to say. I'm really interested to see how this patch looks like once this Crit Mastery is nerfed, because it'll allow me to see how good other items are, especially sustain items. No one has bought Bork in any of the 20 plus games I've played. But I don't even think Bork is that bad of an item. It's just that because you get so much sustain already from crits, what's the point of buying Bork? And especially when the new Last Whisper item gives you enough, like, penetrates higher health targets better than Bork does, it just feels like a pretty outdated item in my opinion. And the last Mastery I talked about is Wind Speaker. I think that, honestly, the Mastery is not bad. It gives champions like Janna, who were maybe not so strong in the last patch, a little bit of power so that they can be buffed up to that, like, top tier, or like that relatively good tier. The problem I see with this is it doesn't address one of the most powerful mid laners that was here in last patch, which was Lulu. I think that this thing makes Lulu even stronger than before, and that's a problem. Like, everyone's experimenting all of these champions, but in my opinion, Lulu's just like stupidly good. And Lulu makes really, really boring gameplay, especially in competitive play, because you can't run any assassins in Lulu because she beats all of them. By, like, not only comp-wise, because she can counter pick comps and counter hard initiation, but also, like, 1v1, it's impossible to kill her. So, I don't know, it makes it really, really boring to watch, and especially, it's one of the biggest reasons why you don't see assassins in competitive play. This plus champions like Kindred and champions like Kench, which deny playmaking and burst, are the reasons why you don't see assassins. And I see that a lot of times in comments, people are talking about how, like, hey, you know, why don't we see like, this could be the time that assassins shine, but it's not about the new patch that will make it shine. It's really just about the fact that the last released champion kits were super countered all the assassin kits, as well as the fact that one of the best mid laners in competitive play is Lulu. So, yeah, it just kind of sucks to play any kind of form of assassins against those type of champions. I think that's all I have to say about the patch. Honestly, it's only been 5 days for me. It could very well be that in a week later, all of these issues are changed, because at the very least, I know that the Crit Mastery is getting removed, and that will change probably my opinion of the patch completely, or to a very large degree. I hope you guys enjoyed this review, or I guess my general thoughts on the current patch, and I will probably just update you guys later down the line how I feel about this patch after a couple changes. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys have a nice night.